You know, Carl, at the end of the week, the Romney campaign got some pretty bad news with a series of polls that came out showing him trailing President Obama by a significant number. It was 9 points in our Fox News poll. I think it was 7 points in a CNN poll. That really kind of upped the pressure on him to make a bold pick for vice president. Will this, in effect, reset the race because this is the bold pick so many Republicans were looking for?
Well, it's certainly one of the picks that they had talked about in terms of sort of shaking things up. Mr. Romney made the decision to pick Paul Ryan on the 1st of the month. That's when he told Beth Myers, who was heading his beef search, that he had picked Paul Ryan. And in fact, he got in touch with the Wisconsin congressman and said, we ought to get together soon, though he didn't actually make the offer on that day. So that was several days back, and it was before the recent spat of polls that suggested that Mr. Romney was down a little bit. But just yesterday in Boston at the campaign headquarters, Mr. Romney's aides told reporters that in their view, the polls that showed the race slipping slightly towards President Obama are not an accurate judge. They make the argument that anything that happens prior to Labor Day is too easily ignored by an American electorate that's still on its August vacation and the kids haven't gone back to school and they haven't tuned in yet, and that won't happen until September. Having said that, they also note that those polls were spot-check snapshots in time and not the daily tracking polls like by Gallup or Scott Rasmussen, both of which have got a much narrower margin. And they finally make the point that when the running mate is announced, now that it has been, and soon to go to the Republican National Convention at the end of this month, they believe that will combine for an 11-point bounce. Rare that you would hear a campaign actually put a number quite so specific on it, but they are expecting just into double digits, and they expect to get a wave of momentum going here that would put them theoretically into the lead by the time they end the Republican convention in Tampa, Florida, and Barack Obama and the Democrats start theirs in North Carolina literally the next week. John.
You know, it might not be too difficult to get that 11-point bounce. Jimmy Carter got 10 points back in 1980, but Bill Clinton, I guess, he got the grand prize. It was 16 points coming out of the Democratic convention in 1992. As he was making the announcement, Carl, Romney misspoke himself just a little bit. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, he had initially mentioned Paul Ryan and said that he was introducing his running mate as the vice presidential nominee. But when he literally brought Paul Ryan out to the stage, he referred to him as the next president of the United States, but then corrected himself. Take a listen.
Join me in welcoming the next president of the United States, Paul Ryan. Every now and then, I'm known to make a mistake. I did not make a mistake with this guy. But I can tell you this, he's going to be the next vice president of the United States.
That was a pretty graceful recovery for Mitt Romney, who, as he himself admitted, rather self-effacingly, he occasionally does have a little bit of trouble with getting his words out and getting it said exactly as he'd like to. Having said that, it's probably worth pointing out that back in 2008, when then presumptive Democratic nominee Barack Obama was introducing his running mate, Joe Biden, he made a similar error and elevated his running mate to top-of-the-ticket status. And in turn, to sort of add the cherry to the cake, Mr. Biden then referred to the man at the top of the ticket as Barack America, as opposed to Barack Obama. So if a little bit of a turn of phrase mangled in the introduction is a sign of success with the Obama-Biden ticket, Romney's the right thing, and perhaps he's going to pull off the upset.
Yeah, well, everybody kind of gets caught up in the moment, I guess. Carl Cammon on the campaign trail for us today. And Carl, we'll be hearing from you in just a little while. Let's bring in our guest, Chris Stirewalt, who is our digital politics editor, and, of course, columnist Bill Crystal. Good to see you this morning. You got to wonder what the late-night comics are going to do with that scene where Mitt Romney comes up to Paul Ryan and says, sometimes I make a mistake. I've been known to make a mistake. And then they cut it there.
Right.
Do you expect we'll see that?
I don't know. I suppose so. I suppose so. But it was a good-natured occasion, I thought, in that respect. It was a good recovery by Mitt Romney, and he did a good, they both did a good job. These things are tough to pull off, and they obviously did it pretty quickly. They didn't have a huge amount of time to prepare. Paul Ryan flew in. When do we think he flew in? Late last night? I haven't even looked, or very early this morring. I thought they did a good job together.
Yeah, you can see Ann Romney in the background pointing at the governor.
You're doing it wrong.
She didn't really like the idea. Some of us thought, okay, if it's a Ryan Romney ticket, I can live with that, But I don't think Ann Romney was really enthusiastic about that.
Chris